the oppression and the persecution which was implemented by Bani Abbas, when you look into history, you find that Imam Askari was under intense house arrest and was subject to persecution and confined into prison a number of times. He was required to report himself to the main judge in the central court, the head of the judiciary, for the 6 years in which he was an imam, as if he's a criminal on parole, where he needs to register himself and establish his presence in the city of Samarra. Imam al-Askari issued a declaration telling the Shias in Samarra, when I come out of my house, do not even come to speak towards me. Leave speak, do not even shake my hand, because you people are not able to protect yourselves from the persecution of this government. Enter in the street, in the market, you are seen waving to Imam al-Askari, you are a suspect in prison. Enter, you shake the hand of Imam al-Askari, you say salam to Imam al-Askari, your life is in danger. But this is Bani Abbas. Tyranny at its peak, oppression at its peak. The tradition states that Imam al-Askari was poisoned on the 1st of Rabiul Awal. The poison that was administered to Imam al-Askari was such that the tradition says on the last day, after 8 days or 15 days according to another tradition of suffering under the pains of the poison, what we are able to establish from the hadith was such that it had got the imam to the state of being paralyzed, and that he would not have any energy in his body. The imam was so weakened by the poison, he was not able to move his limbs or raise his hands. On the day that he was martyred, 8th of Rabiul Awwal, the tradition says that he called his wife Sayyida Narjis and asked her to bring the medication, which was in a bowl mixed with water. The tradition says that the imam was not able to lift the bowl and bring it to his lips to drink. His hands were shivering because of the effect of the poison. The tradition mentions at this time Sayyida Narjis, when she tried to give Imam al-Askari the medication, Imam was not able to drink. Imam al-Askari told Sayyida Narjis, bring for me my son the Mahdi. Sayyida Narjis says, I went into the chamber of the house, to the inner chamber of the house, and I saw my son Imam al-Mahdi, 5 or 6 years old. Sayyida Narjis says, I saw my son sitting on the prayer mat, his face shining like the bright moon on a dark night, his hands are up in prayer. I said to him, oh my son, your father is calling you. Sayyida Narjis says, Imam al-Mahdi stood up straight away and he went running into the room of his father. The narration tells us that Imam al-Mahdi took with his blessed hands the bowl and he raised the head of Imam al-Askari and he began to feed the medicine to Imam al-Askari. Allah, the tradition says, when Imam al-Askari drank from the medicine, he lied back down and Imam al-Mahdi sat by his chest and began to weep. Imam al-Askari hugged Imam al-Mahdi and he said to him, Bunayya anta baqiyatullahi fil ard. He says, the Imam begins to give him the final wasiyah. Imam al-Askari tells Imam al-Mahdi, oh my son, that you are the remainder, or you are the argument of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. Wa anta ta'khudh bi tha'ri wa tha'ri ajdadika wa tha'ri jaddika al-Husayn. Imam al-Askari tells him, oh my son, you are the one who has been appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to avenge my death and to avenge the death of my grandfathers and to avenge the death of your grandfather Hussein. Allah, Allah, Allah. Imam Askari, even in the last moments of his life, he remembers the madlumiyya of Imam al-Hussein. Allah, Allah, the traditions mention that as soon as Imam al-Askari said this, he straightened his legs and he straightened his hands. He lied down facing the Qibla. He looked at Imam al-Mahdi for the last time. He turned around and looked at Sayyida Narjis for the last time. He closed his eyes and with one deep breath, Allah, Allah, the soul of Imam al-Askari was lifted to the heavens. The traditions mention that Imam al-Mahdi began to weep uncontrollably. Sayyida Narjis, Sayyida Hakima wept uncontrollably. Allah, Allah, mu'mineen. Imam al-Askari told Imam al-Mahdi the last words. He said, Inta ta'khud bi tha'ri jaddika al-Hussein. He says to him, oh my son, you are the one who is going to avenge the death of my grandfather Hussein. Allah, Allah. The traditions mention that after the dhuhur of the 12th Imam, he will establish his capital in Kufa. He will go to Karbala al-Muqaddas. Allah, Allah. The traditions mention that Imam Sahib al-Amr will then enter into the haram of Imam al-Hussein. He will go into the Dari. He will lower himself into the grave and he will bring out the body of a 6-month-old infant, Abdullah al-Radhi. Allah, Allah, tonight cry for Imam al-Mahdi. Cry on the martyrdom of Imam al-Askari. Cry for the grief of Imam on Karbala. Imam says in Ziyarat al-Nahiya that because I was not able to be there for you to Imam al-Hussein and I was not able to fight with your enemies, what does Imam say? He says, فَلَأَنْدُبَنَّكَ صَبَاحًا وَمَسَاءً وَلَأَبْكِيَنَّ لَكَ بَدَلَ الدُّمُوءِ دَمًا حَسْرَةً عَلَيْكَ. Imam says that I shall lament you every morning and every evening, and I shall weep for you tears of blood. Imam Sahib al-Amr says to Imam al-Hussein that my grief in regards to Karbala, I shall weep you with a choking grief until I die. Allah, Allah, the tradition says that Imam al-Mahdi will remove Ali al-Asghar from the Dari and he will say, if the elders had a sin, what was the sin of this youngster? The narrations mention that when Hurmala shot the arrow on the neck of Abdullah al-Radhi, Allah, Allah, Imam al-Hussein saw what he saw, but the other part of his difficulty was to go back into the khayma. The narrations mention that Imam al-Hussein would take a step towards the khayma. He would say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. He would take a step back. He would ponder for a bit. He would take another step forward. He says, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. 7 times Imam al-Hussein would not go into the khayma. The traditions mention until he heard a voice from the heavens, the voice from Fatima to Zahra. She says to Hussein, my son Hussein, let go of your infant. Indeed, we are there in heaven to nurse him. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un wa la'anatullah ala qawmi adh-dhalimin. Fatima Hussein.